We thank you once again for the co-creation of this interaction, this day of your time. And we will begin this interaction, which we have entitled, Take Action, in the following way. Last night of your time, we spoke about the idea of downloads, and we will reiterate a few points briefly because there is connection between the idea of download and take action. We spoke about the idea of the communion between the higher self as it downloads to the physical brain, which then transmits to the physical mind information. And we reminded you that the higher mind conceives, the brain receives, the physical mind perceives. And we talked about the mechanism by which that occurs, involving the pineal gland and the neurochemical transmitters it creates in order to facilitate that connection between higher non-physical mind through the physical brain into the personality construct. Now, the reason why we remind you of the idea of the download and all the information that comes through the conduit of imagination, inspiration, and communion with the higher mind is that the idea is a two-part process. Downloading is the first part, but taking action is the second part. Once again, by analogy, you can liken it to the idea of electricity in the sense that if you are receiving information, if you are receiving inspiration, if you do not actually flow that information through you, apply it by physical action in your physical reality, then there is really no point in the continuation of the downloading of information. If you do not flow it through you, you have short-circuited its ability to be applied in physical reality, and therefore the download information can simply stay within you, build up within you, and the downloads, in a sense, can seem to cease. For there is no reason to pick up any more information if you haven't already used what you've been given. So it is crucial to understand that in order to really use the information, to allow more information to come through, taking action is very important in your physical reality. And of course, when we talk about taking action, as we have many times, we are referring to the idea of taking action on the things that excite you the most. Because excitement is the physical translation of the vibratory energy that represents your true self. Now, obviously there are many ways in which you can take action. And we will be discussing these today of your time. And in this discussion, we will engage some of you, specifically, personally, to apply this idea of action in your lives, in your own personal and specific situations. So in other words, if you are having any degree of difficulty in manifesting what you prefer, we can discuss in specific terms what actions might be necessary to unstick yourselves, unblock yourselves, allow that information, that energy to flow, and to create an effect of manifestation in your reality. But let us remind you, once again, of the basics of taking action, because as we talked about when we spoke of the idea now on your planet that is labeled the secret, and we talked about the secret of the secret, is that it's all well and good to have passion about a thing, but you must also be passionate about having passion in order for it to really continue. Many people will say they are following and acting on their passion, but they give up all too easily when they do not get what they expect. The idea is that if you're not passionate about being passionate, then the idea of the passion will not be sustained. For the idea is that that which truly you are passionate about, you would never give up on. You would look for any avenue, any way, any methodology whatsoever by which to pursue that idea. Now, once again, when we talk about the idea of taking action, it is within the context of understanding that it is to be without specific expectation. You can have, for lack of a better term, the expectancy that it will bring you what you need, what you require. It will increase, accelerate, and expand your joy, your creativity, your passion. But the expectation refers to the specific way in which you might envision a thing coming to fruition. And as we mentioned last night of your time, the idea is that your physical mind does not really have the capability of knowing exactly how a thing may manifest. But it does have the capability of envisioning a symbolic manifestation in its mind, in your mind's eye, that represents the idea of that particular reality that you desire, that you prefer. Now, we are not saying that what your physical mind might imagine as a picture that represents that reality you prefer cannot manifest. We are not saying that. It can, and sometimes often does, exactly as you have pictured it. But what we are reminding you of is that whatever it is the physical mind is capable of conjuring up as an image of that so-called preferred reality, that idealized reality, that desired reality, is not, even though the physical mind may think so, necessarily the highest depiction of that reality you actually desire, of that state of being. The physical mind can only imagine so much in the context of its physical reality. It is not capable of handling too much information at the same time. And it is not capable of perceiving certain things that are the domain of the higher mind. So the idea is that whatever it is you picture as a vision of the reality you prefer, you can use that as a template, you can use that as a guide, you can use that to allow yourself to feel, to identify and feel the vibration, the excitement, the passion that represents that reality. But please remember and recognize that whatever the picture is you have that is conjured from your physical mind is, to you perhaps, seeming the highest possible representation of that idea, but to the higher mind it's the lowest possible representation of that idea. And thus then the higher mind will take that as a foundation and can go up from there and actually give you something, manifest something for you that is far greater, far more exciting, far more imaginative than you were capable of imagining with the physical mind. So that's why it is important to not insist with your expectation that the vision your physical mind conjures for you must be the way it occurs, because if you insist on it, you're actually stopping the higher mind from giving it to you in a way that might be better than you imagined. Just use it as a guide, knowing that it is the vibration the higher mind needs to key off of, to then bring to you what you are willing to allow to come to you as the actual thing that represents the state of being that you really, really would find most joyful, most beneficial, most passionate, most loving, most creative. But this idea of taking action is paramount and key into fulfilling whatever that vision represents, be it literal or be it something that will be even better, even greater. Taking action, because you are physical beings. The idea of actually acting on your excitement is making a commitment. And it is showing, it is demonstrating to your higher mind that you are willing to commit to that reality, to that vibration, to that state of being. That you are open to receiving anything that is of that state of being. It is also being willing to look at anything within yourself. Anything at all, a belief system, a definition, an emotion, a thought, anything within yourself that needs to be processed in order for you to become a more integrated being, in order to move forward in the direction of that preferred reality, that preferred state of being. As you take actions in your life, in the direction of the things that excite you the most, you will start a process, start a ball rolling, as you say, that will unlock certain parameters within your personality construct. Certain beliefs and certain definitions will then be brought to your attention. You will be made conscious of them. And when you are made conscious of them as you take these actions, you are not made conscious of them because It is a reflection that you are stuck with it. You are made conscious of them because it is a reflection that this is what you need to deal with, so that it gives you the opportunity to move beyond it, to integrate it and move beyond it. So anytime anything like that comes up, even if you didn't expect it, it is a joyful event that gives you the opportunity to propel yourself through it and beyond it if you will act upon that circumstance in that way, from that positive point of view. Labeling it as positive, that it is there, using it in a positive way as a stepping stone to the next stepping stone. Remember, every point, every idea is a stepping stone. And if you don't validate the one that's there, you cannot use it to get to the next one. It will be as if there is a gap. So the idea of taking action is an overall holistic process of taking steps forward in what you might typically call faith, but doesn't really require faith as you understand it. It can be a knowing, an absolute knowing that your higher mind is guiding you, and that the steps you take and the things that are presented to you in life are the things that actually, when used in a positive way, when acted on in a positive way, will get you where you actually wish to go. That's what they're there for. But they're there to give you that journey in a particular form, in a particular process that actually gives you the ability to fully appreciate and fully utilize what it is that ultimately will manifest. The process is for that reason. Taking action is for that reason. Is for learning the things you need to learn, experiencing the process you need to experience, in order that when the thing itself that might be the object of the manifestation manifests, you actually will have more capability, more appreciation to utilize it in the best possible way for all concerned. So that's what that's about. Now, we have talked about many ways of taking action, many levels of the idea of taking action on your excitement. And so we will remind you right now of a few. When we talk about the idea of taking action on your excitement, again, please remember, it doesn't mean you have to have some sort of particular life-spanning career or project in mind. You can, that's fine. But you don't have to start there if you don't have one in mind. The idea, first and foremost, is to recognize that, again, at any given moment, you have available to you a number of options of things you could do. All you have to do is look at all the options available to you and act on the one that is most exciting to you, that you have the greatest degree of ability to take action on at that moment. And if more than one seems equally exciting, then you can either take action on either and let it guide you as to whether to keep going in that direction or turn around and do the other one, or you can relabel, redefine, and re-identify the two apparently equally exciting things as simply different aspects of one larger overriding overall exciting things, of which those two things might simply be reflections of. It's an opportunity to consolidate and integrate the idea of your excitement and recognize connections where they exist, if two things seem equal to you in excitement. But if they do seem equal, it won't matter really which you take action on, based on the idea of which you have the greatest ability to take action on. So that's the first criteria. Choose whatever it is that is the most exciting. Secondly, that you have the greatest degree of ability to actually do something about. And take it as far as you can until you can take it no further. Then, when you reach that new crossroads, look around for what opportunities, circumstances, and situations are, once again, most representative of the most exciting thing. And choose that and act on it. Now, once again, it's not about looking for those things that you think are supposed to appear connected to what you think excites you. It's simply about following whatever is most exciting and knowing that the reason it's most exciting is because it is connected to where you want to go. That's why it's exciting. Not because it has to look like it's connected. Because very often the things that excite you the most will not necessarily appear to be connected to other things that excite you. But they may actually, in fact, be representative, moving in that direction, of the path of least resistance. Your physical mind may think that the path of least resistance is this way, but your higher mind will show you, through the idea of what comes with the most excitement, what the path of least resistance actually is, even if it seems a little bit circuitous at first. The excitement tells you it's actually the shortest, quickest, most effortless path. Trust the excitement. Trust the passion. It will lead you in the proper direction. It will allow you to process what you need to process. It will allow you the synchronicity that you need to experience. And it will get you where you're going in the best possible way with the highest amount of ability and appreciation to use what you manifest. Now, synchronicity plays a big key in the idea of taking action. Once again, when you are willing to really put yourself out, take action, make a commitment to the things you say excite you, do whatever it is you can do to make that a physical reality for yourself, to make it real, to feel it, to taste it, to smell it, to touch it, to see it, to hear it, to really make it as real as possible, taking action, physical activity on that thing that excites you to whatever degree you can. More and more synchronicity will occur in your life that will bring to you the right people, the right places, the right time, the right support, exactly when you need it. It may not come 1 second before you need it, but it will not come 1 second later than you need it. That's what synchronicity is all about. Perfect timing. Perfect timing. The coming together, the right place and time of all the elements that demonstrate to you that everything is one, that everything is connected. And synchronicity is the linear space-time representation of that fact, that everything touches everything else, and that any part that needs to be there in your kit will be there exactly when you need it. Not a second later, but not a second sooner. Because if you don't need it, there's no point in it showing up. So many times we know that one of the reasons many of you hesitate to take some of the actions that are necessary to get things rolling is because you're waiting for something to show up, thinking, well, I'll take the action when that thing's there. But in fact, it actually works the other way around more often than not. When you take the action, then that thing is there when you need it. And that's what you need to learn to trust, is that that's how the kit usually works. Sometimes it might be there first, but many times it may not be. But that should not stop you. The whole process will occur when it needs to, in exactly the manner that it does. Now, in terms of taking action, we have also talked about the idea of creating as solidly as possible the vision that you have in your mind of what represents your ideal reality. We have talked about the idea of mocking it up in physical terms, simulating it, if you will, as best as you can. This is still an important key. Once again, you will find that many people who consider themselves to be successful manifestors will have, at various points in their lives, had a vision, but they will actually have play-acted the vision out physically in some fashion, even though it may not actually have been at the moment the quote-unquote real thing. An actor, for example, who wishes to act on stage or wishes to act in a movie may simply go, before they have ever given a part, they may simply go to a stage, to a sound stage, may hire their friends to run a camera. They will then act out a part perhaps that they wrote or someone else wrote, but they will go through the actual physical motion, mocking it up, as though they really are at that moment making a real movie, doing it for real, being a real actor. And by doing that, by taking that kind of action as well, not only acting on the things you are capable of acting on that apparently relate to the thing that you prefer, but also mocking it up and acting through that scenario, you then train, in a sense, your body consciousness to get used to that vibration of that reality. The more real you can make it, the more real your brain and your body will believe that it is. And the more real your brain and body vibrations believe that it is, the easier it will be for you to align with your higher mind and allow the higher mind to manifest that reality for you in some form. So mocking it up is also a form of taking action. But again, we recognize that even though we have discussed this idea many times, many of you will still think we are talking metaphorically and will just do the exercise in your mind and will not actually go to the length to actually physically transform your physical environment to actually be as close a representation of the reality you prefer that you would prefer. So we are urging you strongly to actually take action in the direction of creating in your reality some representation as close to the vision of that reality as you can that is physically present, to make it look as much like that reality as possible, and key off of those representations as though they are real, which is why it's important to make them look as real as possible. But you can use your imagination in this, but not just to sit around and use your imagination. Use your imagination while you are physically mocking it up, to play act through that and get used to that. It's like rehearsal of that reality. And the more you rehearse, the better you get. And the more you actually find yourself then living that reality. Bless you. Another variation of the idea of taking action in that vision in your mind is to pay attention very closely to the version of you you see in that image you have of that ideal reality. Very often, many of you will have this image of yourself living this wonderful reality. But you will forget to pay attention to the fact that the behavior of the version of you you see in that image is very different than the behavior you exhibit on a day-to-day basis. The idea of seeing yourself in that vision of the ideal reality that you prefer is for the purpose of creating a mirror reflection for you to mimic. So that if you act like that person, you are more likely to have the reality you see that version of you having. That's the point. Observe closely the thoughts, the words, the deeds, the body language, the physical behavior of that version of you in that reality. Because that version of you will do things very often very differently than you go about doing things in your day-to-day reality, because you are making a difference between the two. And so you have the ability to use your imagination this way, to point out the difference between the two, so that you can create less difference between the two. The more you act like him or her in that version of your ideal reality, the more you will attract that reality, his reality, her reality. So pay attention to the body language and take that version of you through all the typical daily routines that you may have in your life or that you want in that reality. Even if it is something that you typically consider ordinary or mundane, watch how that you does it. Because if that you is actually in a reality that is representative of his or her passion, that you is going to be doing even the ordinary things in a much different way than you might do. So let's say you have a vision of that you in that reality, living the life you prefer. Just take that you, let's say, grocery shopping. Because that might still be something you might still do, even in the reality of your passion. Now, if you look at that you and the way that you does it, then that's the way for you, to the best of your ability, to do the same thing. Mock up as best as you can, act out as closely as you can, the way in which that you would do it. As best as you can, get as close as you can. That's all you need to do. As long as you've made the commitment to get as close as you can, the vibration will be read by the higher mind as the full commitment. So it doesn't always have to be exact, as long as you are willing to get as close as you can. And sometimes you might surprise yourself as to exactly how close you can get. Because again, synchronicity will support you once you have made the commitment to behave that way and take action. That way, synchronicity will support you and bring about the opportunities to behave that way. And at first it may be a little shocking and a little surprising, but I think you'll get used to it. So the idea is, let's say you're looking at that you and you see that you going grocery shopping. Again, the idea might be that the body language is different as you do so. Maybe your attention is drawn to different products as that you, that are more representative of the reality you prefer. Maybe you will, as that you, hire someone to do the shopping for you. Again, get as close as you can to that you. Whatever truly represents what is most fun, most passionate for you in thought, word, and deed, and all those behaviors, mock it up, mimic it, mirror it as closely as you can. Every day. Walk down the street and say, how would the ideal me, with the ideal reality, be walking down this street? Head held high, a smile for everyone, feeling great, light on my feet, not moping down the sidewalk, wondering when it's all going to happen for me. Because the version of you for whom it has already happened doesn't have a reason to do that, do they? Therefore, if you are doing this and they are doing this, there is a vast difference between your vibrations and thus a vast difference in your ability to attract. So, taking action. Taking action is the willingness to understand, the willingness to know that by doing so, you are bringing that downloaded information, that downloaded inspiration, that downloaded imagination, that downloaded vision, that downloaded energy, and you are grounding it, you are applying it, you are putting it out there so that you are creating a flow. And when you create a flow, you empty the vessel. And when you empty the vessel, more can be poured in, and more will come, and more will keep coming, and it will never stop. It will never stop. There are times when it may seem to stop, but that doesn't mean it actually has stopped. It may simply mean that there is a reason to pause and ponder what's going on and contemplate in a peaceful manner. That doesn't mean anything has stopped. Never label anything as an obstacle, or it will be experienced as an obstacle. Simply allow yourself to sit with it, let it be what it is, knowing it's there for a reason. How do you know it's there for a reason? Because you say so. Again, remember, nothing in creation will contradict you. It never has before, and it never will. Even when you insist on having extremely negative realities, creation doesn't contradict you. It's not going to contradict you when you insist on having a positive one. So feel free to have whatever reality you prefer. But because you are physical beings, it is imperative that you take action in the direction of what you prefer, or the universe will not experience the commitment from you that will flip the switch to allow things to happen to reinforce that reality. If you're not taking action, you're actually saying you don't really want it. And therefore, you are getting what you asked for. Nothing. Stasis. Static. But when you flow, everything flows. You must uncork the valve. And then the genie can grant your wishes. The genie within you. Now, let us explore some specific ideas in your personal lives about taking action, manifestation, things that you might be experiencing as difficulties, obstacles, impediments, if you wish.